Welcome to Study Session 7, Theories of Emotions. Introduction. There are several theories on emotion as a psychological concept. However, this study session will take you through the reviews of 4 principal theories of emotion. These are James Lange theory of emotion, the Cannon-Bard theory, cognitive theory of emotion by Scatter and Singer's 2-factor theory, learning outcomes. At the end of this study session, you should be able to 1. Highlight the James Lange theory of emotion. 2. Explain the Cannon-Bard theory. 3. Discuss the cognitive theory of emotion. James Lange theory of emotion. James and Lange proposed the same explanation of emotion at about the same time. Thus, the theory was named for both of them. A common sense idea about emotion will be seen below. Environmental influence, that is, some event, leads to psychological experience, which leads to physiological state changes. But the James Lange theory states environmental influence, that is, event, leads to physiological change, which leads to psychological experience. In other words, James and Lange would say, I feel afraid because I tremble. If a person sees a bear while walking along in the woods, James and Lange would suggest that the person would tremble and then realize that they are trembling. They are afraid. James stated, my theory is that the bodily changes follow directly the perception of the exciting fact, and that our feeling of the same changes as they occur is the emotion. Common sense says we lose our fortune, are sorry and weep. We meet a bear, are frightened and run. We are insulted by a rival, get angry and strike. The hypothesis here to be defended says that this order of sequence is incorrect, and that the more rational statement is that we feel sorry because we cry, angry because we strike, afraid because we tremble. The Cannon-Bard theory. The background. Again, 2 people had the same perspective at roughly the same time, although Cannon was considered to be the most influential one. This theory made use of information about physiological structures not available to James and Lange. The main thrust of Cannon-Bard theory is that emotional expression results from the function of hypothalamic structures, and emotional feeling results from stimulations of the dorsal thalamus. The physiological changes and subjective feeling of an emotion in response to a stimulus are separate and independent. Arousal does not have to occur before the emotion. Thus, the thalamic region is attributed a major role in this theory of emotion. Cannon's critique, 1929, of the James Lange theory, he indicated that some of the problems of the James Lange theory are people who show different emotions may have the same physiological state. Example, cry when happy and sad. Visceral changes are often too difficult to notice by a person having the experience to be used as cues. Visceral changes are often too slow to be a source of emotions, which erupt very quickly. For example, when something bad happens to you, do you always cry before you feel sad? Or do you feel sad before crying? Physiological arousal may occur without the experience of an emotion. For example, exercise increased heart rate, no emotional significance. Cognitive theories of emotion by Scatter. The 2-factor theory of emotion, or Scatter-Singer theory, states that emotion is based on two factors: physiological arousal and cognitive labor. The theory was created by researchers Stanley and Jerome Singer. According to the theory, when an emotion is felt, a physiological arousal occurs and the person uses the immediate environment to search for emotional cues to label the physiological arousal. This can sometimes cause misinterpretation of emotions based on the body's physiological state. According to one major theory of emotion, there are two key components: physical arousal and a cognitive label. Cognitive theories of emotion began to emerge during the 1960s as a part of what is often referred to as the cognitive revolution in psychology. Schachter and Singer felt that physical arousal played a primary role in emotions. However, they suggested that this arousal was the same for a wide variety of emotions, so physical arousal alone could not be responsible for emotional responses. The two-factor theory of emotion focuses on the interaction between physical arousal and how we cognitively label that arousal. In other words, simply feeling arousal is not enough. We also must identify the arousal in order to feel the emotion. So imagine you are alone in a dark parking lot walking toward your car. A strange man suddenly emerges from a nearby row of trees and rapidly approaches. The sequence that follows, according to the two-factor theory, would be much like this. 1. I see a strange man walking toward me. 2. My heart is racing and I'm trembling. 3. My rapid heart rate and trembling are caused by fear. 4. I am frightened. The process begins with the stimulus, the strange man, which is followed by the physical arousal, rapid heartbeat and trembling. Added to this is the cognitive label, associating the physical reaction to fear, which is immediately followed by the conscious experience of the emotion, fear. Emotions occur when the thalamus sends signals to both the cortex, which produces conscious experience of emotion, and autonomic nervous system, visceral arousal, at the same time. But as we know already, the thalamus is not the only player involved in emotion. The limbic system, hypothalamus, and others are all involved. So this leads us to the cognitive view. Schachter and Singer maintain that we don't automatically know when we are happy, angry, or jealous. Instead, we label our emotions by considering situational cues. We feel some emotion. To really understand what emotion we are having at a particular time, we use the cues in the environment at the time to help us determine the current emotion. This labeling process depends on two factors. Some element in the situation must trigger a general, non-specific arousal marked by increased heart rate, tightening of the stomach, and rapid breathing. People search the situation environment for cues that tell them what has caused the emotion. Study session summary. In this study session, you have learned that 1. The James Lange theory states that environmental influence leads to physiological change, and this leads to the psychological experience. 2. Cannon-Bard theory explains that emotional expressions result from the functions of hypothalamic structures, and emotional feeling results from stimulations of the dorsal thalamus. The physiological changes and subjective feeling of an emotion in response to a stimulus are separate and independent. Arousal does not have to occur before the emotion. Thus, the thalamic region is attributed a major role in this theory of emotion. 3. The two-factor theory of emotion or Scatter-Singer theory states that emotion is based on two factors: physiological arousal and cognitive label. The theory was created by researchers Stanley and Jerome Singer. 4. According to the theory, when an emotion is felt, a physiological arousal occurs and the person uses the immediate environment to search for emotional cues to label the physiological arousal. This can sometimes cause misinterpretation of emotions based on the body's physiological state. When the brain does not know why it feels an emotion, it relies on external stimuli for clues on how to label the emotion. We have come to the end of study session 7. Thank you.